You're listening to an episode of Mindfulness, Sexuality, and Relationships. I am your host, Anita DeFrancesco, and the founder of Tantra Wisdom. You can find me on the group page on Facebook. And today I have two very special guests with me from Flagstaff, Arizona. I have Shane Brandolini and Heather Kadar, who are the inventors and founders of Sacred Sex Game. And they are artists, seekers, lovers. And the purpose of this game, which we're going to have a long conversation about this, is to open the lines of communication between couples and lovers and just individuals who are seeking to find that better way to communicate with the opposite sex and nurturing the positive sexual relationships that are there for us in this world that we sometimes take for granted. Hello and welcome, Shane and Heather Kadar. Nice to meet you both, and I'm glad you're here with me. So how are you today?
Very good. Thank you, Anita, for having us on the show.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Anita.
Yes, Heather. So who shall we start with? Heather, you want to tell me something about yourself and how you came to be with this whole idea of the sacred sex game?
Sure. I have been an artist my entire life, and I am a professional working full-time artist. And, I just have that creative spirit within me for beautiful design, trying to see how things work and making things function. And when Shane and I first met almost 12 years ago, he came to my house with this beautiful game, and it was very rudimentary at the time. It was on some just regular poster board and a lot of pencil marks. No pen, no ink, no color, anything. And it was beautifully designed, and there were a lot of writings on it and whatnot. And he was like, I have a Tantra game. And I was like, let's play it and see if it works. And like I said, this was over 12 years ago. So we played it a few times, and it worked. There were a few things that needed finessed and worked out. But as with life and everything else that happens, it got shelved. So that's where it was up until over about a year ago. Yeah. A year ago this time.
We continue to practice in our lives, but the game itself.
Yeah, conscious communication, breathing, sexual posture.
So that's wonderful. So that at least you had it there and it was on the shelf, but it's no longer on the shelf. It's ready to be in people's homes. Shane, now tell me about yourself. Since we're speaking with Heather Kadar and Shane Brandolini of the Sacred Sex Game. Shane, tell me about yourself, how you came about this. It sounds like you pretty much invented the game at first, or?
Yes. I attended my first Tantra workshop some 20 years ago, and that was my introduction into, that sacred world. And I, practiced yoga and whatnot in my life, but that was a real introduction into intimacy. And at the time, I was with another woman, and it was, I was like 25 or whatnot, and it was a beautiful way to begin to communicate in a relationship, to understand that from the East and the understanding of how these ancient ideas. And so I've always been an inventive spirit and an artist my entire life as well. And it was right around my Saturn return when I was 29 that I created a ceremony for myself for that Saturn return. And it was like during that period, I was like, I want to create a board game. I want to create something that I can give back to the world, because at that time I'd probably been studying Tantra for some 4 odd years. And I was like, I can do this. And so I probably went through 6 different revisions of the board and trying to understand how to make something that was fun and functional, and understanding scoring and all this stuff. And that by that time, when I had met Heather, I had something that was workable, but I still had a lot of hang-ups. And, obviously, like she said, life just kind of gets away from you. And, the board game got shelved.
So when did you when did the board game manifest itself again after you had it shelved for a while?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Last year in October, I think it was.
I think it's October, November of 2017 or 2016.
We had some really good friends over. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what made you bring it out then? Like, sometimes you put things away for a long time.
Yeah. We had some really good friends over for dinner, and we were all just sitting around. And last year, about this time, in October, I was in a creative slump. I had some things take place during the year that just kind of were creating barriers for me creatively. And so the four of us were just sitting around and talking and
had heart-to-heart conversation.
Yeah, heart-to-heart. And the woman asked me, she said, "Well, what's going on? What are you working on?" And just out of the depths of my being, I just I have a tantra game, and it was just like, where did this come from? And she was like, "Well, let's see it." And so I ran downstairs, and I knew exactly where it was, and I pulled all the pieces out, and I brought it upstairs. And this time it was...
And they were very curious. It was probably 10 o'clock at night.
And they're like, let's play it. And so the four of us sat down, clothes on, and just played it, for its functional aspect of it. And it was at that moment when I was...
A light bulb.
Yeah. They were, the smiles on their faces, and they were engaging with each other. I had never even designed it to function this way with four people sitting around. Just, designed it for a dyad. And the four of us played it, and they're like, "We want to see this."
Because they wanted it. They were like, "We want this game." And and we realized that we wanted the game too. And
he gave me, my friend, he gave me a deadline of December of last year for a functioning prototype. And I was just like, all this fear just rushed in, and it was just like, oh my God, deadlines, and here's something I've had for, so long in my life. And he's like, I want this. I want to see this deadline. And I met the deadline last year, December 31st.
To have a working prototype.
Yeah, to have a working prototype. And then I worked on it all year.
So you refined the whole game from what it was originally, and you added a lot of things to it, I'm sure. And changed it up and made it marketable, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the content, most of the content was there. We refined a lot of components, completely redesigned the board, and we did a lot of testing with it. So overall, we probably had, 8 to 10 separate couples test the game throughout the year as well. So we could get a lot of good feedback and make any changes that needed to be adjusted.
Yes.
So after all of these couples tested it, is it strictly for couples or is it for a group, would you say? Just a dyad or for a group?
It's playable in a lot of different ways. Fortunately, we are all adults, and you can create whatever playing situation I feel like you want to create. If there's two of you, you can play. If you're two mutual friends, you don't have to take your clothes off with this game. The majority of the content is about communication with this game, which is lovely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you can talk about breathing techniques. You can do eye gazing. You can do the breathing techniques together if you want. If you wanted to play with four people as individuals or as two different couples, you can do it that way as well. Yeah. We do have different instructions for different situations.
The game comes with an instruction manual for a dyad play, and then on the website, on a secret page, we actually have a triad gameplay and also four people.
So this can be tailored to a couple, a group, three people. It can be tailored. It sounds like it can be tailored in many ways. And getting back to what Tantra is for our audience, Tantra is about, teaching the body how to become more sacred and more spiritual so that when we do make love, that it's a much more fulfilling and nurturing experience and something that can last longer. And it involves a lot of respect and communication. So when you were saying about, they can keep their clothing on during the game, I would think that, because Tantra is not really about getting nude, I like my audience to know that as a Tantra teacher. It's really about the sacredness of your soul. And if people can sit and play this game they can really start to get more conscious about life, about what their purpose is and where they're going and who they're with, who that person is that they're really with.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
Creating safe boundaries for both parties or all parties.
Yeah, the content it's very content rich. We have 270 cards in 9 different categories. And there's of the 270 cards, there's only 10 cards that are actually sexual postures. And even on the card, it says try, clothed, or naked. So that creates an automatic release from any assumptions about what needs to be done with the card. So you literally could, if you even wanted, there's no rule in the game that says you can't just look at the card and discuss what that would feel like.
Right.
And so that's important. That's an important aspect of the game. I mean, 270 cards and such a small percentage of them deal directly with a sexual posture. And so, yeah.
And looking at a sexual posture on a card could open up, or break shame for someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly.
It can remove the shame or the hiding, the shame and hiding and the wounds, or at least it can create that image in the mind and a visualization that when they do go to the making love part of, their relationship as it continues on, that these images are there and they're creating a safety within
Absolutely.
the body.
Absolutely.
So being that, so there's a lot of, so it sounds like you have cards that are sexual postures and communication, questions.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go on, I wanted to ask you what the opera d'arte is, opera d'arte or opera?
Opera d'arte.
Opera d'arte. Yeah, what is that?
Italian. It's Italian.
I know. I'm Italian.
Yeah,
yes.
Me too. Brandolini. Yeah. So it's just a work of art. That's what it means.
Okay.
Yeah.
Opera d'arte. I love that because I love opera. I love opera. You know what? One thing, I'm going to get into the questions about this game, but one thing just came to my mind as you just mentioned opera, and I love opera. I go to many performances.
Oh,
I've also done some performances, singing and background in opera performances years ago.
Beautiful.
But what I was thinking, you can have music cards that open up to the sounds, to open up the chakras and the motor skills in another way, sound. Something like that.
Yes. Yeah, we have cards that specifically are designed to interact with the 5 senses. And then, cards, kissing cards and breathing exercises, lots of like sitting in front of your partner and breathing together consciously, transferring energy or just being aware of each other's energy, touching each other's hearts and feeling the heartbeat. Mm-hmm. So all the classic things that go along with building intimacy, because it just doesn't, it doesn't start or end in the bedroom. It's an entire journey together where you begin to understand
foreplay.
Yeah,
foreplay. This card's about foreplay. This card's about questioning your foreplay.
Right, learning how to be intimate. Yes. So we already know this has taken you about 12 years. And you've been working on this, and you got into it because of going to some Tantra workshops yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with, how do you start this game? Is it on the market now? Is it in the stores?
Yes. Yes, you can buy it on our website at sacredsexgame.com.
Sacred Sex Game. And so you would say this is for any specific age group of people, or is it just for,
Yeah.
And that's one great thing.
Any age over 18.
Yeah, over 18. So whenever we did do our initial testing, we tested everyone from early 20s to in their late 60s. And
40 years in a relationship.
40 years in a relationship versus 2 weeks in a relationship. So, and same sex, we did a same-sex couple as well. And I feel confident that anyone of age can play this game.
Can you travel with it? Is it big enough for a suitcase, or how big is it, the box? Or
yes, it's small enough for a suitcase, which is great. We have a standard version that comes in a cloth carry bag, and we designed that for that purpose. So if you wanted to take it with you on vacation, it's a really beautiful blue bag with a white ribbon, very indescript. and you can pop it in your suitcase. And then we have a deluxe version that has the carry bag as well, that comes in a beautifully laser wood box.
So
it's nice and compact.
Say two people, just strangers, want to play. Is that okay?
I believe so.
If they are consenting adults, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's very well known amongst the Tantra community is being able to have, like a puja where, people interact that are not necessarily in a relationship or, just are there for the day, that are just interacting and learning about just energy in general. And like kind of like a salsa dance where you're exchanging partners and just kind of understanding how to just operate within a group with your clothes on. And this, if you're willing, I think more importantly than if you're willing to be with somebody else, if you're willing to look at yourself, I think that's really one of the things about the game that is dynamic. There are so many cards that reflect back onto self. So it's about being willing to expose yourself in front of somebody else and being willing to expose yourself to you.
Right. So kind of surrendering to yourself and surrendering and having that space, that sacred space. So what this is creating is like a sacred space between, and it's also the boundaries, like Heather said. What I'm feeling as I'm talking to you is that this is a wonderful way to teach people to respect and not be a sexual harasser, so to speak, out there, or someone that's going to grope you, or, since we're in that world mindset these days.
It's so important.
It's a training ground. It's a training ground for people who really want to take the time and learn. And this, I see this as a real positive, a real positive step into our world, as far as, and especially that they can just do it in the privacy of their home,
Exactly. And the commitment to be able to unplug for an hour, 2 hours, and commit to one-on-one conversation without any distractions with technology, cell phones, any of that is a really beautiful gift nowadays.
Yeah. And, it might seem bizarre, to be creating a analog game in a digital world. But it is a game. It is a game. And games, as adults, we have forgotten how to play, just to play and to be spontaneous and joyful, and especially in our interactions with each other and ourselves. And games have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it is a commitment. Sit down for, like Heather said, an hour or 2 hours and play something that allows for opening up and blossoming and getting to know about yourself and your partner in a very, analog way. And
intimacy and having great foreplay. And, and foreplay is a range of anything from touching to talking to looking at each other, and then that could lead to really great sex.
Mm-hmm. Right. This is true, and this can also, mental stimulation for people, like getting away from the cell phone and looking at another human being. Mm-hmm. And this is great for people who don't go to classes, who don't take workshops, and this is a nice way to get them. Here's a couple questions I have for you. So how do you start the game? How do you keep score? And how do you win? Is there a winner, or how does that go?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. So, the game has a very beautiful beginning and end, because it's not about just, dropping, your piece on the board, rolling the dice and moving around it. You start the game by actually opening up communication and dialogue with your partner, the person you're playing with. And so in order to start the game, you flip through and look through the instruction booklet and look at what's called the end elixirs. And the end elixir is a list of 52 things that you want if you win. And it's
that's interesting. Rewards.
Right? Rewards. So
for example, number 8 is tonight is my night to give unconditionally. Number 18, bring on the sex toys and be specific. 36, striptease, I watch you slowly undress before lovemaking. So, if I chose one, then my partner would have to agree to that end elixir and vice versa. So right there's an automatic open lines of communication and what each other's boundaries are.
Right. So each of us chooses an elixir, and each of us agrees to the other's elixir if they win. So automatically, you have to start the game, and you've got a list of 52 things that you might never have done in your life that you want to expand and become more aware of and open up your boundaries, or just open up, your...
Do they have to do it all on that night?
No, absolutely not. You only get one elixir per game, so each of you chooses one out of the 52. And then once you've done that, and you've marked it on the score pad that's what you want, each of you, and then each of you must choose a start block. And so the game is designed with a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual start position. So there's 4 areas to start from to enter the first circle.
And so there's physical start blocks, and again, there's lists of 25 ideas
of each
of a physical start block, 25 of mental. Physical start block is one, low libido or no sex drive. Another is holding my breath during orgasm. Those are both physical start blocks. Mental start block, affected by derogatory peer objections to my behavior. Another mental start block is I must get the last word in when arguing. So there's just all general things that relate to intimacy.
And so what these do is they just open up the couple or the partners or playing to the possibilities that are blocks in their life. Yeah. You don't have to necessarily identify with this, and you don't have to own it, but you can. You can say, this is something I want to work on. But then there's a spiritual block, S22, is I just want to play the game.
So if you just want to play the game,
they have choices.
Yeah. You have to choose one, and there's 25,
100 choices in the start block.
It's quite extensive, and you haven't even started the game yet. You choose what you want if you win, and you choose something that you want to release when you start. And so, like entering the ceremony of our own life, where you bring something you want to give and you bring something you want to release, to the altar of your life.
Right. Interesting. So it's like that you're creating the sacred space, and they don't even know they're creating conscious sacred space.
Before you even start reading the cards and playing the game and moving around the board.
Yeah, and so then from there, you actually, roll dice, see who goes first, and then the highest roll wins, and then you start by entering the first circle. And the first ring, which I call the ring of petals, is 36. The second ring is 27, and then the final ring is 9 petals.
And you can see what the board looks like on our website.
Yes. Now from what I understand, it's a really functional piece of art, very good looking art. The high quality cards. It's 24-page instruction booklet.
Yeah.
And the semi-precious stones. So tell me, let's get into some of that here.
Yeah. So we chose, instead of, this is all, as much of it as possible is made in the United States. We've taken very sustainable manufacturing practices, and instead of getting like plastic pieces or play pieces or cast cheap metal or whatnot, we took the time to actually hand pick semi-precious stones as play pieces. So you get a semi-precious crystal to play with.
Whether it's an amethyst or rose quartz or tiger's eye, we have a collection of random.
Yeah, and then the high-quality cards are also made in the United States, and there's 9 different categories. So they're on the outside ring is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual cards. And these cards are very similar in their verbiage, but they relate to either the body, the mind, emotions, or the spirit when you read them off. And so
so every game is different. Each game is different. Different in the sense of the design or the art pieces, the crystals, or
every game is different. the way that you move around the board, obviously you roll the dice and you land on a pedal, and there's the icon that correlates to the card, one of the 9 different cards. And each game, on average, an individual player will pull between 30 to 40 cards from the beginning to the end of the game. So that gives you a range of a total of, with 2 people, 60 to 80 cards. So there's 270 cards. So there's a lot that do not get played. And so you shuffle the cards every time that you start the game. And it's like a tarot deck, really, where you pull the cards pretty much what you need for that gameplay. And then just knowing that there's all that other content that could be played in the future leads to a game never being the same twice.
Right.
So each time they go to replay this game, say, a week later, or it's going to be different. It'll be different.
Yes. You might pull one or a handful of cards, but again in the next game, but they're not going to be in that sequence either. So the way that you pull the cards, it could range from early on, if you jumped in and you went to a sexual posture and somebody wasn't necessarily ready for a sexual posture, that could be a block. Or you just pull a card that was the same card, but you're in a different emotional state.
Oh, okay. So
you can interact with the cards very differently.
Yeah.
So this works with your own moment and mood.
Yes, 100%. And, it's important, too, since we're, getting into the depths of the game, to talk about the scoring, which, the scoring part of it probably took me the longest to actually design and perfect in a way that is completely functional and operational
and fun
for the game.
Yeah.
And like our own experience in life, the game has a scoring system that is related to energy and blocks. So you want to accumulate as much energy as you can and release as much blocks as you can. So the scoring system is a dual scoring. And on each card, there is either you receive energy for reading the card and interacting or just admitting something true or false, and or gaining blocks. So in order to win, you have to have a certain amount of energy and a certain amount of blocks. So
one of you is a scorekeeper, and you each whenever you pull a card, you read it. Either you interact with the partner, or you interact with yourself internally, but you still express the information on the card with the person that you're playing with, and then you answer as truthfully as you can in that space, and then you either, like Shane said, you gain energy or gain blocks or release blocks.
Let me just interrupt for a second. So to my audience, you're listening to an episode of Mindfulness, Sexuality, and Relationships. I'm your host, Anita DeFrancesco, and today we are speaking with Shane Brandolini and Heather Kadar of the Sacred Sex Game. They are inventors of a sacred sex game that can be found on their website, and we are talking about how to become more intimate and how to have better lines of communication within your relationship. And hi, I'm back with you. There you are.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you on this game, how long does it take to do it? Are they setting out an evening, or is it a couple of hours, or?
The initial setup, if the first time you open the box and begin to play it, it could take a little longer because you're learning a new game. But we have played it extensively, and on average, it's about an hour.
An hour.
Yeah.
The initial, like Shane said, the initial first time that you play it could be 2 hours, maybe 2.5. It's just a matter of reading the instruction manual, choosing your end elixir, choosing your start block, creating those lines of communication, and then start playing. Because the instruction manual is so rich that you and your partner might just want to sit there and read it.
Now, I have to just admit that playing it in an hour is, moving through the cards, moving through the interactive cards in a way that says, 3 minutes, max 3 minutes, or, practice this for, 10 breaths or whatever the card says. But we have experienced in our own gameplay, sometimes a card can wrap you up in a conversation that might last 30 to 45 minutes.
Right. So it's really experiential, the whole thing.
Absolutely.
And you're really you're cutting the surface with just an hour. I mean, I would think that you want to go deeper within the whole experience of the couple themselves, as far as, how much time. I wanted to ask you another question about this. What if they're drinking alcohol or something? They've just come from dinner, they come home, they want to play this game. Are there any rules like that?
Well, that's a great question. From our perspective, being sober is the best medicine, and especially when it comes to communication, because from my experience, alcohol can be a depressant and can sort of also be an aggressor. So this game was intended to be very nurturing and from the heart. So I personally don't suggest being inebriated when you play this. If you have a drink or two of wine, a glass or two, and over some hours, that's great. But otherwise, set your intentions for this game.
Absolutely.
This sounds wonderful. I'm excited to get the feedback on this. About what else do you want to tell me about this? What haven't I touched on? I mean, you can tell us where they can get it and the price of it. It's a nice gift. It sounds like it would be a wonderful holiday gift, even though we're just coming out of, the holidays now. We're still in the holidays, though. We're still in the holidays.
It's a great anniversary gift. It's a great gift to yourself, to your lover, and Valentine's Day, of course. But to us, every day should be Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And,
the game website is sacredsexgame.com. And we have two different versions. We have the standard version, which comes in a cloth carry bag. And then, of course, the deluxe version comes in a laser-cut wood box and comes with a Shiva lingam and a selenite massage wand. And
and right now on our website, we are running a special. The retail for the standard version is $179. And that is being offered at $159 with free shipping in the U.S. And then the deluxe version retails for $229, but again, we're running a special right now at $199, again with free shipping.
This is a game to have in your house for sure. Definitely. Yeah. This is definitely a game. And even if it's a family setting, I mean, it's not for, children. You say it's over 18, but I mean, it's for any home. It's not just a couple. If there's a husband and wife that want to take this game.
Yeah. And we actually tested the game with a family. The parents were at the dining table. The kids were in the living room just doing their thing in the evening. And the parents discreetly played the game with each other at the dining room table.
Yeah, we actually went over to their house. We had two boards. And we sat at the kitchen island, and Heather and I played. And then the test couple, was sitting, like Heather said, at the dining room table. And it was one of those moments where, it was new. We were, still in the test phase. And, the boy was playing, Nintendo or whatever. And, he's kind of jumping up and being interactive, and here the parents are playing the game, and I was having this kind of a little anxiety, like, oh, maybe this is the right time, this might not be working, maybe we should do it another time. And the boy comes over to the parents and comes up to the mother, and what are you doing, Mom? And she just gently looks over at him and says, we're playing an adult board game. And
for Mom and Dad.
For Mom and Dad. And he's just like, oh, okay. And goes back to does his own thing. And I was just like, wow, what a beautiful learning lesson for me, for you just be releasing and being in the moment. And it's completely possible because we're all busy lives.
Also, the transference of that positive sacred energy that the parents are, experiencing during the game is transferred within the environment, the house, and it's all positive, of course.
Of course, yes.
There's nothing bad about it or, wrong, but it's just a transference of energy that comes with sort of like a discipline in a way too,
Absolutely.
where you're discipline, training your mind and your spirit, training your mind and your physical to become more spiritual.
Absolutely. And it's a game. It's a game. So the idea of committing to a game, sitting down and interacting and learning about each other, opening up dialogue, having fun, and, just at your dining room table and be able to, in a busy life, instead of being on your phone or in front of the TV or doing some work after hours.
And I'll bet this brings on some good smiles and laughter.
Yes, it does.
Yes, and that's most important. One last question, perhaps. What do most people find? What are they finding most helpful about this within their challenged relationships? Say,
I think opening up necessary dialogue that you wouldn't have done otherwise.
Intimacy, communication in ways that are just not natural per se.
Right. I mean, you adhere to the rules of the game and you commit to a beginning, middle, and end. So how often do you sit down for an hour to 2 hours and do some eye gazing or some, touching hands on hearts or breathing or kissing or talking about,
massaging each other's, arms and back and, being able to choose what the cards do for you and guide you through intimacy.
So just
have to recreate it yourself.
And it's a game. It's the sacred sex game.
Yeah.
So what do you have to lose with a game?
Right.
Because life is really one big game, isn't it? But
it is. It's a game of life. Yeah.
What's different about this? This is the sacred sex game. That makes it different and much more, appealing because it's sacred and we're really coming from that authentic, deep place here. So, if you have anything else you would like to say or any questions I haven't touched on that would be important, otherwise we could kind of wrap the interview up.
Yeah, we really appreciate everything that you do and your Tantra wisdom and your knowledge in spreading this information to more people throughout the world.
Absolutely.
It's about raising consciousness, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, we're just all doing our part to bring about a conscious awareness to what it is that either we consider sacred or what others should be considering sacred in the term of the whole human experience, and just being a community of people across the globe that are raising each other up. And we're all
treating each other with respect and love and compassion.
Nicely said. Very nicely said. Yes, and having more love in our own lives. And it took a lot of love to do this. I'll have to say that I feel the love between you. I really do.
Yeah, you can reach us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, private and public. We have a newsletter that people can sign up for. Instagram account, absolutely. And, just go to our website, sacredsexgame.com, and learn more about the game. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us, and we'll be glad to answer whatever questions you have.
Okay. Well, thank you both very much for being here with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. You're listening to an episode of Mindfulness, Sexuality, and Relationships. I'm your host, Anita DeFrancesco, founder of Tantra Wisdom. And today we were talking with Shane and Heather of the Sacred Sex Game, sacredsexgame.com. It is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us lovers out there, for us people that really want to have the healthy relationship. This is a wonderful start to open up your senses and your mind and soul to connect with just the beloveds of the world. And I want to thank you both very much. Thank you so much for being here today with me.
Thank you
so much,
Thank you, Anita.
Okay. All right. See you all. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.